Hello and welcome back to Mellohi, a Dream SMP podcast. This is episode 47 and today we'll be discussing Tommy's loneliness during exile, different lore writing styles, and Dream's original escape plan. As always, we refer to the characters by name and specify when we're talking about the writers. And we're back.
Hello.
Specifically also I'm back because I wasn't here last episode.
Welcome
Yes,
back.
you left us all on our lonesome and we just had to try our best.
That is actually, that's the first time I missed an episode.
Indeed.
It's kind of funny. We actually missed posting the episode we posted a day late.
So funny.
There's a good reason for that, and it's the same reason that I missed an episode. I had exams. This is posted on Monday, so last week.
Yeah.
And that's why it came out late, because I was stressed studying for exams and I just completely forgot to upload the episode.
To be fair,
really had some issues with
I thought about asking if the episode would be put up, and then I forgot to actually ask if the episode would be put up in the chat.
Yeah.
I feel like I did the same
We're all forgetting
thing.
things all over the place. Like, I literally forgot I haven't had an eye appointment today, and now I had to reschedule it to next week. But yeah, I do have some pretty big exams coming up in June, so I'll probably only be here for the next few weeks. I'd say like next 4 weeks, and then I'll probably not be on the podcast for a few weeks, just because I'm going to be focusing on those.
Alrighty. We wish you luck in your future exams.
Yes. Have fun doing that because exams are not enjoyable things to do, to be fair. Yeah, so...
But they are pretty important exams in my country. They're usually considered like a nationwide traumatic event because of how stressful they are. So
I feel like,
I'm going to be like, the month before them, I'm going to be like studying as much as I can.
to be fair, I feel like exams are just worldwide traumatic events.
Yeah, they're not
the good thing, the only good thing that comes out of these exams, and there's like a set you do beforehand when you're in third year, is people make memes about them. So after every paper that you do, and you're like, oh god, that bit was so hard, or there's like a bit that was weird or confusing, you can just go on like Instagram or whatever, and people will have made memes about that part. I remember back when I was doing the first set of exams in third year, there was, in the English paper, there was this one poem about like a sheep, and a dude who sees a sheep, and literally no one knew what it was on about. And like what the sheep was meant to represent because that was one of the questions. So there were just so many memes about it afterwards.
What is the meaning of a sheep?
I was like, the sheep is his guilt over going to the pub. Honestly, like, I don't know, like, I like this sort of analysis stuff when it comes to Dream SMP, but if you ask me to look at a poem, I'm just like, no way.
Poetry
I'm so
is
glad,
hard
because
to
for the
interpret.
exams I'm taking, they've actually like made some changes to accommodate for the fact that because of COVID we missed a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And part of that is on the English exam.
Oh, no.
You need to get a pass, where I live, you need to get a pass in English to get into a university course,
Yeah.
which I fundamentally disagree with. You could just change it to get a pass in English or history or business or something, because it's basically the same set of skills. But one of the great things, because you need a pass, and I'm terrible at English exams, you don't have to do poetry anymore.
Oh, that's nice. Poetry is hard to.
Yeah, basically, so there's 2 papers, and the second paper is focused on stuff that you have to study through the years, and because so many people missed time because of COVID, because of teachers being out because of COVID, they instead reduced it, so you only have to do one last section.
That's nice.
Anyway, we should probably talk about Dream SMP now, because we've been talking for 4 minutes about
4 minutes
the exams
about
in my
exams.
country.
Mellohi podcast, the only place you can go to learn about, Irish schooling and history, as well as the Dream SMP. An unlikely combination, but one that we make work. Okay, yeah, no, poetry's hard to analyze, but so is the Dream SMP at times. So, some
Yeah,
of those
see,
skills
the
are
thing
serving
is,
you well.
Yeah.
I am autistic, I am bad at symbolism and metaphors and all that, so I just never get poetry. There's this one example that I always use from when I was younger, where the teacher gave us this poem, and I was like, oh cool, this is a poem about like mushrooms. I like mushrooms, they're cool. And then apparently the teacher was like, oh, it's a poem about like the oppression of women.
Wait,
And
how does that relate to mushrooms?
What?
The thing about the Dream SMP is they don't do that.
Yeah,
to be
that
fair,
is nice.
it's
Any
opposite.
symbolism is stuff that we purposefully seek out and decide, I know you didn't mean to make that symbolism, we're making that symbolism.
And
It's
people do
literally
that,
the
and it
opposite.
usually works out.
They'll do something super literal.
No
and
English
everyone will
teachers to
just
tell
be
you
like,
you're wrong.
it's metaphorical. And no, it's whatever. Yes, no, I'm sorry, there's no metaphor for Wilbur fucking a fish. He fucked a fish.
Oh, the weird
It's metaphorical for his desire to be liked by everyone, even the most insignificant of animals.
I don't think there's any justifying the fact that Wilbur's character fucked a fish other than, you know,
It's Wilbur.
Wilbur
Soot.
Soot just likes to be a meme at times, and
Dude, Wilbur's such
having a fox son that he got from fucking a fish is just one of those memes,
that
I
he
guess.
asexual reproduce off a big toe of his foot.
Oh right, that's how it was. It wasn't even.
No, he just he
Let's
likes
not start talking
One thing
about
I love
funding.
about analyzing the Dream SMP is because it's less about that stuff, and you were trying to figure out more about the characters and more about the stories, where the story might be going, or how certain things came to be. Then it's less looking at that kind of symbolism and stuff. It's more looking at the content creators and what kind of stories they like telling. It's looking at how they play their characters and comparing them to each other to highlight differences. There's like this big analysis post I made ages back, and I've talked about it on this podcast before, but for anyone who's new, basically Quackity, Wilbur, Sam and Foolish all have characters that are sort of have this very similar sort of need for control. And they're all, it's not, no wait, I mixed it up. It wasn't Quackity, it was Rombo. And my general idea was like, these are characters who are fundamentally at different stages along the same general character arc in terms of control, but we don't really know where they're going to end up at the end of it, because the only character we've really seen who's sort of reached the end of this character arc and is potentially starting on a new character arc is Foolish.
Yeah.
And honestly, I just really like that about Foolish, actually, that his backstory is like he's already had a character arc before to get where he is at the start of his story in the Dream SMP, and now he's having another one, basically. And I just like it because it makes his character feel more real, like he didn't just pop into existence
I think it's
the
kind
moment
of
he joined the Dream
funny
SMP.
because it's. But I find it funny the character development that his character is going on, though, because it's literally that he was terrible, he got better, and now he's being terrible
being
again.
terrible.
And it's just like, oh, okay, Foolish.
And like one thing that I really like is that a lot of what I predicted actually came true, specifically with Sam, because I was like, so Sam's sort of like on this, in that analysis, which was ages ago, I was like, well, Sam's sort of on the step before Dream where he wants to feel in control, but he's not gone to the point of being very extreme about that, and now he has. Well, meanwhile, we haven't really seen much of Dream, but he might be moving more in the direction of where Foolish was at the start. And honestly, we haven't seen Rombo enough recently to really know where he is right now, but he might change after he comes back from the dead.
Okay, can I just say something that's really, really funny though? Funny to me. It's just that in the most recent Rambo lore that I can remember, Rambo is literally sassing out Dream and Puns over not bringing him back, and then complaining that Tubbo and no one else has decided to go ask Dream and Puns to bring him back, and he's just staring at Puns' tower as he's saying this to Amesy, and I just find this very, very funny to me, honestly.
Yeah, I mean...
Dream.
I mean, like,
wake me up in 5
I
minutes.
feel like a lot of people who aren't like aboard the Ender Small theory train are gonna have some like completely different interpretations of that scene to us. Because I definitely see like a big argument people use is like, well, if Dream is and Ranboo are working together, and Dream actually cares about Ranboo, why hasn't he brought him back? But obviously the argument against that is Dream has consistently shown himself very willing to distance himself from the people who he works with, because he knows that if they're seen as allied with him, they'll be caught in the crossfire, just like Techno was.
Yeah, and like now
with
he
Quackity
knows that
putting him in the prison.
Even worse than he thought it was, because he's been through fucking torture.
Yeah.
So essentially, what needs to happen for him to be able to bring Ranboo back is for him to be given a reason by another character to do so, because if he just decided to do it, obviously people question, why would he do this to Ranboo? He barely even knows him. They've talked like, what, twice as far as most people on the Dream SMP know? It would be a huge risk to Ranboo's position as a spy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you feel that like what Ranboo was hoping would happen was that Tubbo, or someone else that he's friends with like Techno, would ask Dream to revive him. Then Dream could say, well, I'll only revive him if you do something for me or give me something.
Give me a new favor.
And then Dream would have a reason to bring back Ranboo.
Yeah.
That wouldn't expose their relationship.
Yeah. But also,
Yeah.
Dude, it's literally that meme about wake me up in 5 minutes, I need to do X, and then it's like, hey, it's been 5 minutes, can you go do X? And then the person's just sleeping. It's like, hey, wake up! But it's Dream and Ranboo asking him to revive him.
I just like the image of like Dream after going to the prison, after being wherever he was, and coming up to the prison and coming back to the prison and arguing with Sam, and like anytime we don't see him on screen, he's just like napping somewhere because he's just so exhausted from everything that happened in the prison.
Okay, I'm leaving.
Like that's the reason he hasn't done any stuff, but he's just too tired. He got like the ultimate napping tips from Techno.
Oh yeah.
And now he's using all of them.
Yep.
I think it's on the topic of Ender Smile though, I do think it's just an interesting cause I think it's really prevalent in the like Sea Dream fan side of things. Because it just, makes sense. Because why else would they be like that? But I'm really genuinely curious. I know a lot of it, for people who really aren't into the whole Ender Smile or secretly technically working together thing, that it's not like a popular... it's not popular, so I'm curious what their sort of reasoning is for what Ranboo does. I know there's the whole mind control thing, which I think is dumb, because obviously that's I feel like that's
stupid.
pretty much
I
proven
think
to not be true.
There might be an assumption that like Dream's trashing people Ranboo likes if he doesn't do what he
But
wants.
that's also
Maybe?
like Dream's been in prison.
Or that
and Ranboo's like
Ender Walking Ranboo was just more susceptible to more vulnerable to manipulation because he doesn't have his memories of his friends, but obviously now we know that
false.
Ender Walking Ranboo has all of his memories, so that theory just doesn't really hold up anymore.
Also, the threatening.
So actually, if anyone's listening to this who doesn't agree with the Ender Walking Ranboo is friends with Dream theory, leave a comment or either on YouTube or Twitter or whatever,
Explain
or
why.
on our Discord.
Yeah,
explain why
tell
you
us
think
why.
that.
Because like,
Explain yourselves.
I'll be honest, the whole
Yeah,
idea
it's interesting.
That,
It's also interesting to see other perspectives.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
to see.
Because like from my perspective, right? So I started out as a fan of Ranboo's character, pretty much. Well, originally I started out as a fan of Technoblade character, because he was like the first one I watched on the Dream SMP. But largely in terms of lore, I was super interested in Ranboo's character, and I still am. But basically, Ranboo's character is sort of what got me into analyzing Dream's character a lot more.
That's kind of fair, because they
Because
have a weird
originally
tie.
I was more on the side, like, I definitely had like a more neutral view of him than a lot of people around last year, like a year and a bit ago. But I typically, like, I still viewed him as like a bad guy, essentially.
I mean, he is a bad
But it was
guy.
like through trying to figure out what his relationship was with Ranboo, they started going, oh, it would actually make more sense if he was more of a sympathetic character, because I can see the similarities between what he says about his motives and what Rambo says about his motives.
Yeah.
And obviously it was sort of a case of like, I already find Rambo sympathetic, so if he shares the same ideas of a different character, obviously I'm going to find that character pretty sympathetic as well.
Yeah. They're just, those two are an interesting bunch.
Yeah, but okay.
And I think...
I'll be honest, The whole Dream threatening Rambu's friends and family doesn't hold up once you consider that Rambu was the one who put the blue... And that whole situation still doesn't make sense to me, because why wouldn't Dream already have the blueprints if he was gonna... But I'm gonna... aside from that... No, it's annoying, okay?
I'm still kind of holding on to the theory that there might be multiple sets of blueprints.
There could be.
There could
that
be.
Would make sense.
But yeah, I think, because if Rambo was being threatened by Dream, then wouldn't he just leave Dream in the prison?
You'd think so.
I mean, like, according to
then?
some people, Dream still has power even in the prison and can somehow manipulate people he's never even met, so...
I just...
Okay, we can't spend the whole episode talking about Seedra, though.
No, but
yeah,
the
okay, but about the blueprints, I do think it would be interesting if there were actually two copies of the blueprints. The first being the ones that were left on the mountain where he met Techno, and that was sort of plan A, was that Techno would be able to find those and use them to rescue him, or would go out visit him and he'd be able to tell Techno where they were and he could go get them. And that was plan A, and when that didn't work, he managed to... Honestly, like, we're not sure actually really what happened there, are we? Like, we don't know if he managed to convince Bad to give the blueprints and just lied about it.
Yeah.
Or if Bad just on his own. I think Bad said on Twitter that it was Bad's own decision. On his own.
I think it was Bad's own decision, but it's still sort of an
so
interesting...
So it's less of a plan B, more of a plan by someone else that ended up being similar to the plan A that failed.
Maybe.
But again, it's just
I don't know.
It's also like, okay, because we don't know if there are more than one set of blueprints, and as of right now, from what we've seen of the video and can assume, based off of everything that we've seen from the video and nothing else, it would just be that the quote-unquote timeline would be that sometime during Dream being tortured by Quackity, Bad meets up with Rambo and gives Rambo the blueprints. Assumably, Rambo puts those blueprints into the box where Dream has stuff for Technoblade. And then assumably, again, it's just, there's so many weird assumptions you have to make.
Okay, so like, there's a problem with that though, which is, we know from when Dream and Puns met after he got out of prison that there was a plan for him to get out.
Yeah.
And we know that something went wrong with that plan, but we don't really know what that original plan was.
Yeah.
No, but it's like, it just doesn't make sense, because again, if he knew he was going to be put in prison and he knew he needed to get out eventually, by escaping like that, why would he leave something so important like having the blueprints and the box in the mountain and leave that up to chance? Because like, that entire plan relies on sympathy and support and pity of people he doesn't entirely trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I suppose I'm proposing that there was either the plan was that he would go to prison, Techno would visit him, and he would tell him that he'd planted the blueprints on the mountain, which would explain why there's specifically a place that Techno would know, because he would know that Techno would be against the prison. Or there was some separate different plan that he originally planned with Puns that went wrong, maybe including the TNT being set off on the prison.
I'm inclined to
believe,
believe
because we still don't really know much about that.
I'm inclined to believe that the original plan involved Rambo in some way.
Yeah.
And that the Techno was
that
a backup,
Rambo being forbidden from entering the prison affected it.
But it still doesn't explain why the box was why the box would have been empty if the blueprints came from Rambo, and I'm just like, why would you leave the box empty if you already knew you were gonna be put in prison, Dream? grab him by the shoulder, shake him incredibly hard. Why? Why?
It's one of those cases where we've got like some of the pieces, but we can tell that there are pieces missing that would hopefully explain things.
Yeah.
But there's just too much stuff we just don't know about. So we're trying to sort of like, it's like a jigsaw, but you're missing half the pieces, and you're trying to sort of guess where everything should go. And you've got some bits that fit together, and some pieces that are just completely random.
Yeah.
So, for instance, like a random piece, they got no idea where it would go. Would be like the TNT being blown up on the prison.
Yeah.
Now that Rambo probably did it.
Rambo was in a silly, goofy.
We don't know why. We don't know if Dream even knew about it.
I mean,
Yeah,
he probably
I know a lot
expected
of
Rambo
people
to
think
do
he
something, but he probably didn't know what Rambo would do exactly, because it happens right after he gives Rambo a message, right?
I think so.
More or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, the smiley face.
Yeah, I think so.
But,
So it's possible that maybe... So here's a possibility. So there's an original plan, maybe with puns, for him to get out of prison.
I don't think it would have been
after
with
a
puns,
while.
because he's been pretty, strict about keeping up the whole puns completely betrayed me facade. So I'm pretty sure it would have had to do with Rambo, someone
Well,
no
like,
one else
presumably,
knows.
like, puns would have been involved.
Well, I think if
But
Puns was involved,
not
I think it
necessarily,
was
like,
sort of
visibly.
that. I
Like,
think
he
it-
would, like, prompt someone else to do something.
I don't know.
No,
I
I don't
think
think
it was-
Puns was involved with any escape plans. I think Puns was told to sit back and wait, and that's why he was surprised that it
But the
took
thing
so
is, we
long.
can't really
Otherwise,
know,
he would have acted sooner.
because Puns was being controlled by the egg.
Well, no. I
This
think
could be
I
the
think
reason
I
that he
agree with
didn't
Snowy
help with
about
any
this.
plan.
Like, I think it was something like because based off of what he said when he met up with Dream afterwards, it does
Oh, yeah, that's a
feel
fair
more
point.
of like a thing where he was like he was told to sit back on his heels, and he was just supposed to, when it happened, meet him at this place. He wasn't involved in any way with actually setting up the escape plan, which is why he was like, I wasn't expecting it to take this long, because it sounds like, based off what they said, Dream had some plan and was supposed to have the, escape covered on his own. And so that's why Puns was like, I wasn't, like, it took longer than I thought. And then, Dream was like, yeah, things didn't always go to plan, but it's fine now, kind of thing. So I think Puns wasn't intended to have any part in helping him escape. It was more of a, after I escape, meet me here, and you'll get me suited up and we can continue our plans, kind of a thing.
Which is why...
Like I said before, it's like we're trying to figure out a jigsaw with half the pieces.
Which is why a lot of people think it's Rambo who was plan A and Techno was plan B. Because if I were Dream, I'd make sure my escape plan was with my closest confidants and not just with someone who I have fairly friendly but also pretty business relationship with. Even if I have a favor over.
I feel like that what ended up happening was like not according to any plan, but also sort of the result of previous plans that had gone wrong. Like the fact that Bamboo visiting the prison led Sam to suspect him, which led to Sam justifying the fact that he put Rambo in prison, which led to Techno breaking in.
Well, to be fair, the book that Rambo signed wasn't exactly subtle. That was
Rambo, please. Yeah, that was a whoopsie on Rambo's part.
I would like to bring back my stream view as Enderby theory, where whenever Rambo the streamer was just going around the DSMP doing stuff like blowing stuff up and leaving random signs all over the place, that was actually Enderwalking Rambo, and he just does that stuff.
No, that's exactly it.
I believe that.
That's exactly him. I can see that kind of person.
Like, this is why I believe that he blew up the community house completely willingly. I think he does it for fun.
Yeah.
I think he just likes to blow stuff up.
There's literally a time
like,
where
hey,
he
need a place blown
lights
off.
a single block on fire at the community house and then puts it out immediately and says, no, I shouldn't.
Yeah, he's just kind of a chaotic douchebag, to be fair. So, yeah,
I blew it up once.
That he
Honestly, I'm really just hoping my interpretation of his character is right, because I'm hoping we get a full reveal and it just completely shatters
everyone's
most of the fanon ideas about Rambo and Enderville.
Yeah.
Like I just want him to do crime.
Yeah.
I just like characters who just do crimes. This is why I would like Tommy's character if the fandom wasn't so annoying about him, because half his character is just doing crime.
Yeah, that's.
And people just take. That's like the best part of him. Why does fandom take away the fact that he does crime?
Yeah, he's a crime boy.
That's the best part of his character.
Crime boy
He
by
steals
definition.
things. He's unapologetic. He's a little shit. If he preferred to steal from Nikki than to ask her for items, which she would willingly give him.
Yeah. He just doesn't like doing things the polite way or the nice way. he actively prefers to just steal and be a thief and a little shit, basically.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
Like, he could get everything he wants, right? He could have it all
Yeah.
if he were to concede a bit of his pride. If he were to be nice, if he were to accept compromises, but he doesn't. And then it just ends up causing him more trouble in the long run. Cough, cough, bad.
He is a strangely, like, well, who was I talking about this the other day with? I was talking to, I think, Lou, about Tommy and his character, because, they were doing a full rewatch of Exile arc, and, what was it they said? Hold on. They were doing a full Exile arc, and they were just talking about Tommy's character during Exile and, like, his sort of, the way he acts, because, it was, so one thing about Exile arc that I think people gripe about a lot is that Tommy's loneliness seems to be, like, his, the main thing that's, making him sad during Exile arc, but if you actually watch Exile arc back, he gets visited, like, every single day.
Yeah.
And so people, for
Honestly,
a long
I
time...
think his loneliness is less like, oh no, everyone's abandoned me. I think it's, in my view, it's very much a Tubbo specific thing, because it was a big deal that Tubbo never properly visited him. He did show up once, but it's kind of vague whether that was like a hallucination, or if he just showed up and didn't say anything, or if that was like content creator Tubbo messing up in some way.
Well,
I still don't know what's up with that.
So, but they had a good point about this, because they were talking about it as well, because I think a lot of people think that it kind of, like, invalidates the loneliness of Exile, because it's weird, right? Like, he gets visited, like, every single day. At least for the first several days, he gets at least 2 people coming almost every single stream.
He gets gifts and presents.
But and so, like, a lot of people are like, that kind of invalidates his, like, because I think Wilbur, content creator Wilbur, at some point, like, out of character during a stream, made a comment being like, so what exactly is the deal with, like, what is it exactly he says, is like, why have you made yourself, like, why are you sad all the time? And, like, your character's not lonely at all. He's getting visited all the time. Your character literally has never been on the server without hanging out with people every day. I'm just questioning your motives here, Which, you could comment about it as you want, but he's like, that was, like, content creator's question, and it's like, so a lot of people, I think, jumped on that and being like, yeah, you know what, you're right, Tommy is literally never alone. Why is this whole thing in Exile that he keeps complaining about being alone? And I think even I've, like, griped on it before, because I thought it was kind of odd, and I think a lot of people have gone to the answer of, like, well, it's really not that he's, like, completely alone, it's really that he wants Tubbo there. But I think Lou made a good point about it, that he's never entirely alone, but in his mind, that it's not quite... It's not really that he's actually physically alone. It's more of a mental loneliness. Like, he's never alone, pretty much, right?
I guess, like, one factor is probably the fact of people visiting him rather than him visiting them, which sort of highlights the fact that he's isolated from the rest of the DSMP.
Yeah.
And that's especially clear when he kills Jack Manifold, because he gets mad at him for visiting him.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? Like, so during
Jack
the first...
Manifold and then prevents Jack Manifold. He drops him into lava and then builds a ceiling over the area where Jack fell in. So Jack couldn't even climb back out.
Because of the whole, like... This also confused me because the whole like he's complaining about being lonely, but when someone he's friends with tries to visit, he
actively stops
murders them.
Well, okay, see, that's the thing, right, that me and Lou were talking
And like I said,
about.
that's the thing. If his issue was less about loneliness, more about the fact that people were always visiting him, but he wasn't able to visit them, was making him feel isolated, rather than a nobody else being around kind of loneliness, it would make sense for him to get angry about someone visiting him.
Yeah, like...
Because that makes him feel bad about himself.
Like, during the first parts of Exile, if you watch it back, like, Dream doesn't really mess with Tommy. Tommy kind of does everything to himself in terms of his, like, downward spiral. It's really not that he's not physically alone. People visit him all the time. And Dream himself doesn't really do much to him except take away his items. So, like, for the most part, he's fine. At the beginning, at least. But he sort of starts falling into this, like, bad headspace and this depression. That, like, even if he gets visited, he doesn't see it as a genuine... Like, he doesn't see people coming to visit him as, like, genuine on their part. He thinks it's, like, a pity thing. He's like, they're all just coming to see me because they feel bad for me. It's not... It's like, this very odd, like, very pessimistic approach to everyone who comes to see him. And it's very strange because most of the time, Tommy's character isn't a very pessimistic character. Like, I feel like in earlier seasons, he always kind of seemed like the bold, everyone should follow me because I know what I'm doing and I'm gonna make sure everything turns out great.
I mean, I think like the context is important because this is just like only a few weeks after November 16th. Yeah, after Wilbur's suicide, and Ghostbur is there with him for a huge chunk of Exile, constantly reminding him of that.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, so like, that's you're right. Tommy isn't much of a
he's already in a bad place, and then everything's just being made worse.
Yeah, but like considering he literally just came up from believing in Wilbur that Wilbur wouldn't blow up Lamamberg because they won, and then the realization that Wilbur blew it up anyways, and that Wilbur never meant anything of what he said, that he was just lying to Tommy to appease him because he was always gonna blow it up. Well, which is funny because Wilbur straight up tells everyone he's a traitor, he's gonna blow everything up no matter what the outcome was, and Tommy and a lot of the other members were just blindly believing that Wilbur wouldn't blow it up as long as they won.
Yeah. It's just an interesting thing in Exile, because a lot of, like, what goes wrong with Tommy there isn't necessarily an outside force acting on him. Like, Dream obviously doesn't help, right? Like, Dream actively, like, helps deteriorate it, but he doesn't do a lot. Because he doesn't have to, because Tommy's already spiraling on his own. He just doesn't help him. He just enables him, and then uses it to his advantage.
And often, like, his main role is, like, just pointing it out. Like, the whole thing with the Christmas tree. And, like, pointing out that Tommy's not allowed to go see it, while everyone else is.
Yeah, it's that, and
it's
then
very
sort of,
petty.
like...
So he's, like, emphasizing the issues that he's already having just by being in exile.
Yeah, it's, like, this weird...
dichotomy?
I don't know. Yeah. I think a lot of that loneliness in Exile doesn't stem from actuality. It stems from his mentality. Yeah, it stems from his mental state and seeing other people.
I think
because in his mind, it's all just for pity's sake. Like, they're just pitying him. Like, they don't actually care about him. Otherwise, they wouldn't have exiled him, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it's all mental stuff.
I think
instead of genuine.
A big part of Tommy's sort of trauma is that he makes his own trauma. He's sort of like, he'll do something and then he'll traumatize himself over it, or he'll think about something, and the way he thinks about it is not, like, it's difficult to say if it's right or wrong, but it's, like, not healthy, right? To think that everybody's only visiting you out of pity isn't a healthy way to think about other people or about yourself. And you'll get stuck in that mindset, and you'll just keep spiraling over and over again in this Ouroboros. And this snake-eating tail cycle of self-destruction.
Yeah, it's a lot of, like, you don't, really, especially post like Pogtopia and November 16th, you don't have to do a lot to make like Tommy's like mental health decline, right? Like all the setup for it is already done. Like he's already at a weak point when he gets exiled. And so it was really easy for Dream, or literally anyone probably, could have taken advantage of that. Which I think is why a lot of people say it was like, no, Dream's not even, like, good at manipulating people. Because, like, did you actually look at what he did during Exile?
So
Like, all it took was, like, Tommy to get a little bit of distance from, like, everything below him. And he immediately was like, wait a minute, this shit isn't real. And it's like, yeah. He's not, like, I don't know, what Dream does, I think we've talked about this before, what Dream does, character Dream anyways, what he does is he just acts on what's already there. Like, he's very, resourceful, I guess. Like, he doesn't...
Adaptive.
Prep. Yeah, he's very adaptive. He goes off of what's already there. So, like, if Tommy had gone into Exile with, like, great mental health, if he had, like, already been, like, doing it, I bet, like, part of it is just, like, if it wasn't for the fact that, like, Tubbo's the one who decided, then I think Tommy would have probably been fine, right? Like, it would have sucked, and it wouldn't have been great, but I think he would have held out, like, mentally a lot longer, and it would have been a lot tougher for Dream to take advantage of him. But since he was already in such, like, a dangerous, like, unhealthy sort of state of mind, and the circumstances of him getting into Exile were really, really, like, crap. Like, it didn't take much for Dream to be like, yeah, he's already kind of, you know, like, depressed. All I have to do is,
push a few
you
buttons.
know, be the only one here and push a couple buttons, and I got it. And it's kind of funny, because I think Tommy can actually... Tommy's such a weird character, right? Because, like, on the one hand, he's, like, a naive, childish, selfish, like, character who doesn't typically, like, he has a hard time, I think, empathizing with people, but he's really, really good at finding other people's buttons and knowing when to press them. And I think you get that a lot during, like, he's great at irritating people, and he's, like, great at, like, not even realizing what he's doing, but unconsciously triggering somebody. Like, he does it to Nikki, and, when she's trying to blow him up. He does it to Jack all the time. He does it to Dream a couple times. And, like, Tommy's got, like, this weird, like... I can only describe it in D&D terms. Yeah, but I can only, like, describe it in, like, D&D terms, where it's, like, he's got, like, a good amount of, like, wisdom and, like, insight into other people, but he's just never, like, consciously aware of it. And so you get, like, these really biting remarks here and there, like, being in the prison and asking Dream was like, who do you miss most? Like, that is, like, fucking, like, holy crap. Like, imagine, oh my god, that's just such a banger line for him to drop, and it's truly, like, super triggering to Dream, and you can see that, and it's just, like,
This is what happens when you love something.
Yeah, it's just, like, Tommy's character, like, just every once in a while, he just says something, and you're like, damn, man, what? Well, how are you, like, this good at, like, assessing other people, and then you're also absolutely dog tier
At doing it for yourself.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, he's got, like, a weird sense of, like, I don't know, he can just, like, make out, like, a lot of information about other people sometimes, and it's just like, dang, man, why are you not like this all the time and using it for good?
Why don't you use it on yourself a couple of times and see why sometimes your friends might hate you for the stuff you do?
I don't know, he's, like, I don't know, he's, like, weirdly, like, emotionally intelligent at the same time as he's not emotionally intelligent at all. Which is interesting when you pair him with, like, because I think that's kind of what makes him, like, naive enough when it comes to, like, Wilbur. Is, like, he can, like, I think he can tell, oh, man. Tommy's a character of contradictions. And it's just, it's hard to...
Like, I like how complicated he is, and it's just one of the reasons I don't like him that much, as much as I could, is just because Fanon simplifies him so much.
They dumb him down.
Fanon's always.
And
The
like,
parts
at
they
least with Dream, I've got the advantage of like there being communities of people who are more analytical of Dream's character, right? But there isn't really yet much of an equivalent. Like, there's a few people I know
Yeah.
who have a more nuanced version of Tommy's character, but it's like there should be like a Tommy version of Dribbler.
Yeah.
Dribbler.
They're called initers, and I don't think it's what you guys are looking for.
I feel like
No.
most of them that I've met
Nuance.
that have
Specificity is nuanced view.
Yeah.
I think in that case you're also gonna just have to look into Dribbler, but the few Dribbler people who like Tommy.
Or also initer. Sparrow Dreams Clock.
Yeah, literally Sparrow. Sparrow's your best bet, you know? Like that's all you got. Outside of that it's rough pickings.
The Green Pickaxe server has a channel called Initial Support Group.
Yes, we do. We just
So if anyone's
them,
listening to this and you're a fan of Tommy's character and also a fan of Dream's character, that's where you want to be.
Yeah, which I'll admit I don't think a lot happens in there except us bullying them, but you know, lightheartedly.
There's a lot of fan art.
Yeah, there's
Well,
a lot
not
of fan art.
but like there is fan art.
Yes.
Not necessarily a lot, but more than you'd probably find elsewhere.
I'll be honest. Okay, so this is like really random and out of the blue weird gripe I have about how people draw Tommy. It's when they draw him shorter than Dream.
There's a weird thing about making
That's
him
so
short.
Weird.
Dude, they're the same
And I
height.
don't
Actually,
know.
isn't Tommy like just a little
I
bit
think
taller?
it's like associated with
Tommy's
the whole
taller
like
than him,
he's
I
a
think.
kid.
Yeah.
Like there's like some stupid headcanon that's like, what if Dream wears the number 2 prisoner uniform because the number 1 is too small for him? So like first
Dude,
we got confirmation.
even if it was for Tommy,
that
it
the
would not
person
be
was
too
never
small
for
for him because they're
Tommy.
the same fucking
And
height.
second, if anything, the even if that was the case, the number 1 uniform would be too big for him. If
Yeah,
anything.
actually.
Yeah.
Tommy's he's like an
Literally-
inch
Like
taller.
if you really attached to that headcanon, just draw Dream wearing the prison uniform, but like the legs are like
Stretched up.
That's the funny thing though. It'd be like the legs are probably. Well, actually, no. We've seen pictures of
Yeah, I'll try.
Dream. He's got bulky shoulders, so it'd probably be like too tight in the shoulders, because he's like built, and then Tommy's a lanky motherfucker.
Wait, guys.
So
Bold of you to assume they'd have tailor-fit clothing for them.
true. It's probably all like one size.
One size fits all.
Fits all. Yeah.
Technoblade tries to put one on for funsies and it doesn't fit at all.
Yeah. There's your real.
You just wear his normal clothes.
If
Because
you.
none of them fit.
Bold of them to assume that they give them prison uniforms and they don't just throw them in there with whatever clothes they already had. Because I'm gonna be honest, that they probably don't go that far. They're probably like, you're lucky to get.
It looks cool for the fan art.
It looks
That's
cool
true.
for the fan art.
I like how I like Late August's fan art of it, which in their animatics for like what Dream wears during the prison. It's literally just a tank top. It's literally just whatever his hoodie was, but then without the hoodie, which is just a wife beater tank top. And I don't know why. I think that's very amusing.
That's such a weird name.
What?
For,
A
like-
wife beater? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a weird one for like it's really just like I'm not sure if you got a specific name ever for that, but I would probably call it a vest because that's what it reminds me of.
No, that's what they're called. I don't know.
Whoever
I don't know where
named
that-
I
them
mean,
had
like
a
I suppose like
terrible
this
naming sense.
vest could describe
Why
a
would
lot of different.
Anyone want to
A lot
buy
of different
piece of
types of
clothing
clothes.
called wife beater?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I
so
can
like
find
I'm
the reason.
using vest here because I know there's a lot of different definitions of it. Yeah, like a lot of different types of clothing are you referred to as vest, but in the sense of like basically like an under t-shirt.
I think
Yeah,
that's
it's-
I know when I was
It's an
little, like, I used to wear
A-style
them under
tank top, so
t-shirt
it's just a
in
specific type
winter.
of tank top. And the reason, I mean, as they are, like, as is, you know, kind of self-explanatory, the reason they're called wife beater shirts is that over the years, the shirt's become sort of a shorthand symbol in pop culture for drunken, slovenly men who beat their wives. It's like when you watch a TV show and there's always that one guy who's just a dickhead to his wife, and it's almost always like a dirty, ripped up wife beater tank top. And I think it started with like silent movies back in like the 90s, but it's literally just a cliche to denote a specific type of character.
I think they had movies and sound by the 90s.
I mean they did. It started with silent movies, and then I think it got, I don't know, maybe it's not the 90s. I don't know. It started with silent films, so probably like more like the 40s. But yeah, so it started with silent films, where it just became like one of those like trope things.
A weird American thing.
Yeah, it's a weird American Hollywood thing. But yeah, so that's why they're called that. So there's your info lesson about random things.
I like the thing with the Asian characters in Hollywood movies, like all the Asian girls have like this dyed stripe in there. Like, where does that come from? What is up with that?
I don't know. There, we could have a long conversation
somehow
about
I feel
strange.
it's like racist character designers going like, oh, but we're doing an Asian character, they have to look Asian, which means they have to have like pale skin and dark eyes and dark hair. How will we make them look interesting if we can't give them stereotypical European features like blonde hair or blue or green eyes?
Okay. I think it's also kind of like a K-pop thing, or like a K-pop like techno thing, because that's a very popular style of music, and I'm pretty sure
I mean, I do know that
a lot of
K-pop
artists do sort of like
they dye their hair, they wear wigs, or they
dye their hair,
ornamentations in their hair. But like a normal Asian person isn't gonna have all those stuff. Like, it's just gonna, I'm sorry to say this in generalizing Asian people, but like black hair, black eyes, more or less. It's kind of actually brown, but really dark brown, and it's like the skin isn't super pale, but it's also not super dark. Like it's yellow, quote unquote.
Like, we're talking about this, I'm just gonna bring up like a pet peeve I have, which is where people look at dark skinned characters in like anime and other Asian media and are like, this character has dark skin, so clearly they're meant to be black. Like, dark skinned Asians don't exist. And it's just always annoyed me, because dark skinned Asians are already super underrepresented in media, even media from Asia itself.
It depends on where, from where in Asia, like.
Trying to like replace one
but the thing
minority
is that
with
it
another,
depends on
one underrepresented group with another is
no, it depends on like where they're from, right? Because people in Japan, in China, their skin isn't super duper dark.
Yeah, but like there's natural variation in the population
hair.
where some people will have darker skin and some people will have lighter skin.
This is a very strange topic of conversation we've somehow ended up on.
But again, it's like...
This is like the start where we start talking about the Irish exam system.
We end with how Asian people are represented in media. No, have you... It's very funny how anime tries to draw, like... Europeans actually, or Americans, and they have like these giant square chins and lots of angry lines, and their eyes are super narrowed.
And why there's been a lot of like accusations for a lot of anime about racism against Africans is that because Japan is such a homogenous country, a lot of Japanese artists rely heavily on stereotypes to
convey,
emphasize the fact that a character is not Asian, which ends up sort of leaning into offensive stereotypes quite often, because they're exaggeration features, which is quite often a thing that's seen as offensive.
I mean, yeah, but also like in animation in general, you kind of have to exaggerate features, right? Otherwise it doesn't, because it's not like live action stuff where everything is obviously completely real to form. But in animation, you have a lot more liberty, and you also have to be able to exaggerate things. Like, you exaggerate movement, you exaggerate expressions. Like, half the faces you see in anime,
you gotta exaggerate, but you gotta make sure you're not exaggerating in a way that's perceived as offensive.
Yeah.
Because exaggeration is also used to make caricatures.
Yeah.
which can often be offensive to a specific group of people. So you gotta basically like know what those offensive characters are, so you can avoid them while still making a character with an exaggeration animation design.
Basically, being an artist is hard, and you all should support your artists.
And like I said, especially like the issue with Japan is because it's so homogenous, there's not as much knowledge of culture outside of Japan and understanding of that kind of stuff.
Again, this is a really weird topic of conversation we've ended up on. I mean, I guess that's a good thing about the Dream SMP,
We're talking about
because you don't have to
racism in
really deal with that
anime
because
now.
it's just Minecraft skins.
I mean, there was a thing where like Dream got accused of being racist because of Mexican Dream, even though Quackity
That's
the
Quackity!
one
That's
who played the
Quackity!
character.
Oh,
That's
man.
Quackity! Quackity's making
honestly
fun
not
of
even
Mexicans.
surprised
He's
by
Mexican
that,
and he's
because-
making fun of Mexicans.
I'm not even, like, surprised by that, because it's
And
just
the whole
kind
point
of like
of it is like it's Quackity making fun of Mexican stereotypes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, like, that's not something I find surprising that someone would get mad about, because, like, because if you know nothing about the Dream SMP, there's obviously a lot of, like, very strange little things that they do that you'll never know about, because, like, how would you know that Quackity plays Mexican Dream when all you know is that Dream's the one who owns it, and Dream is a person? So you just be like, okay, so there's someone called Mexican Dream on the SMP who's running around as, like, an offensive Mexican stereotype. Of course, it says Dream, so it must be Dream. So of course, I'm gonna get, like, I can understand where people
Easter,
get that
guys.
from. It's just, oh man.
They must be very
Happy Easter,
surprising
guys.
to learn that he plays
it
the
just became
person
Easter
who's
where I am.
married to, well,
Ah.
not married, dating Mexican Dream.
Oh yeah, Mamacita.
Uh,
Happy Easter, Sai. I think we're getting close to the end of our time. We should probably do the question of the week, because I know we actually got responses on that one.
Let's see, what was it again? You guys were the ones that came up with
Right, we asked people
so you read
what their favorite, who their personal favorite writer for the lore is, and we got a pretty varied list of answers. I said Quackity, BBH, and Dream. And I think BBH was one I saw a lot, because I think a lot of people really enjoyed how different the egg arc it was. And,
his current lore is also lots of fun.
it is, like, BBH is just, like, a really fun, like, guy when it comes
such
to
a good
lore. Like, he just does
actor,
some
too.
quirky,
And
he does some quirky
he's
things.
very willing to interact with other people's stories.
I love
Yeah.
that about him. I love that about him. He's so
and
willing
to just
to
improvise, and that's how like the Sandberg became a thing.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he loves causing conflicts and then bouncing off of what other people do in return, and then just going out there and incorporating everyone else's stories into his own, and I love that about him so much. Like
Yeah.
CPK's first day, lore.
Like he gives me the feeling like he's someone with experience with roleplay, like Foolish is.
I would believe that. I don't know what Foolish has done before, but he's pretty good at it too.
Oh, Foolish played D&D before he joined. I remember it came up when he first joined the Doom SMP.
Oh.
And people were like talking about him, and I remember seeing someone mention that he said that he played D&D before. I remember going, oh, that seems really good, because it means he's got experience with role playing.
Yeah.
And it means that he'll probably be confident enough to jump right in.
Yeah.
And I was right, because he came up with some really creative ideas, and he's done some really interesting story and character stuff.
He has, yeah.
And obviously you don't necessarily need roleplay experience to be good at roleplay, but it definitely does help to have experience cooperating with people.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of the Dream SMP content creators are, even if they're people who have maybe done writing before, they're not as used to collaborating with other people. Like, I think that is an issue that I think Wilbur has.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons he said difficulty continuing his lore, because he's having difficulty collaborating with other people.
Yeah.
Well, I think
He sees a very,
that's-
very set idea of what he wants to do in the future and who he needs to do that.
Well, I
Yeah.
think part of that is because he has played D&D before, but he's played on the DM side, it sounds like. So I think he's more used to being the one who sets the plot structure and can sort of he can sort of make decisions about other people's characters for them. to some extent, because as a DM you can do that. You just have to be careful to not overblow it and completely overwrite somebody's own free will. But like I don't think he's that bad at it. It's just like I think he's used to smaller sets of people to work with when the Dream SMP requires you to work with like 20 people.
But also the way he I feel like because of that it's his lures tend to be fairly strict and with fairly like big sets of, so like normally you get point A and point B, but with Wilbur lore I've noticed it tends to be like point A, B, C, D, E, because there's a lot more things that has to happen in his lore before it gets to the final point.
Set events.
See, I don't know, because from
like
what
where
I
he's like,
remember...
on this day we're gonna do this thing and it's gonna be a big thing that's gonna change everything.
Yeah. Well, see, that's
especially
the thing, right? Like, I know
lore.
he does set like certain days where like he sets like November 16th or the debate or the election.
But
he does have,
I think that was actually a very useful thing for the roleplay.
Yeah,
because I think he gave it more of a structure and that people could build their characters around that structure.
Yeah, but
and I think that like every 16th thing did work.
Well, I remember. See, I remember
it gave people time
talking,
between each event.
I remember them talking about the Dream SMP and how the structure for it worked early on. And Wilbur himself, I think, said that basically what it is that they set point A and they set point B. And as long as they don't, like, nothing that you do sort of, like, interrupts point B from being reached, then it's free game. And I remember early on when, like, during Poctopia era, one of the complaints was that we have these big moments coming and, like, we know them, but in between, and it was both a complaint and a positive thing where, like, people were like, the nice part about it is that, that in between point A and point B, characters can pretty much do whatever they want, and it gives them something to like prepare for. Like if, and so like, I don't remember exactly what the conversation was, but it's just sort of like, I don't think he structures it as heavily as we think he does. It was really just like he set specific events where specific things were supposed to happen, but everything in between to reach that event was kind of free ball for anyone as long as it didn't counteract it.
I think that it depends on which part of the season or what part of the lore Wilbur's writing you're talking about, because at the beginning of the very first stuff, that was pure roleplay, I believe. I'm pretty sure. Because it was Wilbur doing shit, and then the Dream Team responding, and then the Lamambra people responding back. And that was like, that everything that happened that I remember that I saw reminds me of the stuff you see in Hermitcraft. And they set dates about when things should end or conclude, but they do it together, right? But with Pogtopia, and in particular the last stream of when everything goes kablooey, I remember distinctly Wilbur talking about how he's giving out a script, and then on that script it literally lists out things like Schlatt's death.
Yeah,
Wilbur getting the presidency, and then Wilbur blowing things up, and then even the part where Filza kills Wilbur was something Wilbur wanted to happen and planned for it to happen. He just didn't tell Filza about it. So that's why I say that Wilbur's script tends to become much stricter than other people's scripts. And so I think that's also why stuff like Fundy's whole betrayal and the notebook thing never came into play. We never got to see the conclusion of Erit's redemption arc, because there wasn't any room for it in the script. So Wilbur just he loses the throne, ends up suddenly become parting of Poctopia, no questions asked, it just happens in a day.
I don't know, I think I know what you're talking about, and I do remember, like, Techno saying that he kind of was, like, the one who had to come in and say that, like, no, my character wouldn't just sit here while you guys make a government, and he was like, no, I'm gonna destroy the country too. Like, I do remember Techno talking about that.
I think, like, the ideal structure for the Dream SMP would sort of be a mix of the older and then newer stuff, where maybe there are like set events that maybe everyone can discuss and decide on together, and then maybe they happen every month or every 2 months, and between those events people can basically do whatever they want with whoever they want as long as they get to those events, but also while also making sure that everyone has a say in what happens in those events.
I feel like with the set events things, I feel like the set events should also be flexible enough to include any new improv that happens to pop up in the time in between. Because I remember
I think the idea of specificing events like the election, I think the election is a good example of an event that can be flexible to stuff that happens within the time.
Yeah.
Because it's these like who was on different parties changed, the fact that George didn't show up changed everything, but they had plans for whoever won. They had different plans for the story going forward. So they still had that flexibility.
Yeah.
It's like I remember Dream also saying that with the prison arc, which went on for way longer than anyone thought it would. That there's stuff they planned out, obviously, things like the escape, probably stuff to do with Technoblade, but also still be flexible enough to include other people's ideas, such as Quackity coming into Torture Dream for the Revive book. Wazah! Which is something
so
I
do you
think
guys want to talk about Monday?
Wilbur's lore tends to miss out on.
Oh, right, wait.
Do you guys want to talk about Fundy's lore, because we are actually still doing the question of the week?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we have time to actually talk about his lore, but we can finish the question of the week thing and being like, people think Fundy's a really good writer, which is fair because we got that, like, one
video
pre-recorded lore thing he did, which was
I really
epic.
love how he mixes in coding and like coming up with his own stuff. With his lore to create these really awesome scenes. And I just want to add my own comment, which is about Rombi's lore, because I think he's really good at building atmosphere, especially because he has very good use of the Little Nightmares soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it can mean that you are really invested in watching a stream, even if it's literally just him walking around arguing with himself, because he's very good at building tension and revealing secrets and new things that we didn't know before.
Yeah. I think he's good at that too.
So you feel like every time he does a proper serious lore stream, you feel like you've come away having discovered the answers to questions you had, but now you also have more questions.
Yeah.
Also, none of this to say any lore is better than the other. I personally think Wilbur's lore is not incredibly flexible.
This is personal preference.
But I'm pretty sure a lot of other people enjoy Wilbur's lore because it is, it's solid. It's got a solid beginning, middle, end, or whatever. You can follow it fairly easily, and you only need to watch one pove to get the whole story, right? Versus others who might prefer things like Bad Story, where it is so flexible you don't know where it starts and where it ends. No, actually, the Sandberg and the timeline and the whole egg banquet thing, we still don't know how that worked out.
Yeah. But... speedrunning the rest of these because we're running out of time. Quackity's another really good one. I think Quackity's one of my favorites because I think he just does like this very interesting. I don't know. I think he's formed like a really strong character, and that really he has a very good grasp on intertwining other people into his lore. And sort of keeping track of his own character and how he, like, his sort of, you know, mind and how he makes decisions and stuff like that. So I think he's really, really, really good. Who else was there? Rambu, Wilbur's
pretty much
popular.
it. I think everyone was just kind of repeating the same set of characters.
Yeah, it was pretty much Dream, BBH, Quackity. A few of us said that CPK has been doing really, really impressive. Carl's been doing really well with the TFT. SMP was a few.
By the way, if you're listening to this and you've got a character whose lore you really like the writing of the content creator,
feel free to let us know.
Even though we've done this question of the week, if you want, you can just join our Discord. We've got a channel for lore discussion. You can talk about it there.
Yeah.
So what do you think we should do for the next question of the week?
Well, we didn't have a specific subject this week, so...
Oh, Punk mentioned. Punk and Puffy did do some
we
lore.
keep forgetting
we didn't watch it, so that's why we didn't talk
Punk
about
mention lately.
Yeah, we don't know what
we
don't know what they were doing.
Unfortunately, we can't talk about things we know nothing about, so...
In my defense, I had exams.
In my defense, I've also been pretty busy the last couple of days.
In my defense, I just don't generally watch Puffy streams, so I was busy doing other things.
I did happen recently, and there was the issue where I think the VOD got deleted because of copyright
There was
reasons.
also that, yeah.
Oh.
So you couldn't exactly just go over it
back
quick and
watch
skim it.
Yeah. That's annoying. That's sad.
But that's okay.
But apparently, people are gonna make recaps and stuff, so that's good.
Okay, we need a question of the week.
What did we talk about this episode?
We talked
about Tommy and
about
Tommy. Maybe a
Exile.
question about that.
What was the funniest
How
part of
about-
Exile?
Yeah, that's. The question I was thinking of was which pair of characters in the Dream SMP do you think are the best friends?
Oh, easy.
Ender smile.
Oh, that wasn't what I was gonna say, but sure, that works too.
Techno and Fofa.
Yeah. Ask. Okay. That's a
Honestly,
good question. I feel like.
I don't think we should do that question because Techno and Fofa are just gonna win.
No, they're not.
So I think
No,
it's
I have a
good
better
question.
pair.
Sorry, not Punk. Punk and CPK.
Why is no one coming up with the obvious? Puns and Dream.
Oh yeah, that as well.
That's
Okay,
true.
wait.
Is Sam in the prison?
Oh, Sam
OTP.
has one.
Sam
Okay, so
X
that's our
prison.
question then. That's our question.
Yeah.
Which pair of characters in the Dream SMP do you think are the best / closest friends?
Also,
Yeah,
what was
that
the
works.
funniest part of Exile?
Sure. That's...
And if you want, you can also tell us which part of Exile you thought was nice. Personally, I thought it was Dynamite by K-pop.
Oh right, yeah. That.
Dream stripping on the church, the prime log so that Tommy gets primes.
Okay. That's enough. We have to leave.
No.
Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Well, thanks for listening to the 47th episode of Mellohi, and we hope you enjoyed it. If there's any topic you'd like to hear us discuss, feel free to leave a comment or find us on Twitter at Mellohi Podcast. We can also ask us questions or just get updates about new episodes. We also have a Discord server that you can find a link to in the description. See you next time!